Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Delivering Business Solution Powered by Software Products. And our guest speakers today are Raghu Polisetti. He is the Managing Director, Accenture Software, Global Delivery Network for Technology, and Udaya Reddy. Raghu is the Head of Product Development, Professional Services and Operations for Accenture Software in the Global Delivery Network for all 40 products across 11 businesses. He has over 23 years of experience leading large, diverse, multi-location, cross-cultural teams. He is recognized as a subject matter expert in global delivery of large systems integration programs and application outsourcing services. He is certified at the highest level within Accenture for system integration. He is also an expert in multiple technologies with the ability to identify the right technology solutions to address specific business goals. He is recognized as a strategist in establishing new capabilities or delivery models. His domain specialization is in automotive, manufacturing, and travel services. Raghu also leads the industry program and technology industry network for Accenture in India. Udaya, he is the global product technology lead for AFLS, Accenture Freight and Logistics Software at Accenture Software. He has lead product development, product strategy, sales and professional services for multiple products and industries ranging from banking, insurance to oil and gas. His passion is developing solutions to pressing business problems involving technology. He has been a faculty at Accenture Software Technology Architecture School and is a certified senior technical architect. So, without further delay, I introduce all to our guest speakers. Over to you, Raghu.
Thank you, Aradhana. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank TechGig first for bringing this community together, for sharing ideas and experiences. I also want to thank everybody else who signed in, and I hope that you would find the next 60 minutes useful and time well spent. I have with me Udaya Reddy, and I want to thank Udaya also for taking time away from his work to speak about some portion of the topic today. Today's topic, as Aradhana already mentioned, is about delivering business solutions powered by softwares and assets. So we will first, before we dwell into that portion of the session, we'll first look at certain trends that are driving change and how it's impacting the way companies and consumers look at investing and delivering services to their clients. So the first trend that we're going to look at is changing customer behaviors and what's driving that change. The consumer today wants more control in the choices they make. They want products and services to be customized and delivered to where they need them and when they need them. Many of you may be familiar with some of the new models that are being delivered for the modern day customer. Some examples that I want to pick here are the Zip car, which is challenging the traditional way of how you rent cars. Instead, this allows peer-to-peer car sharing. So you could put up your car for sharing, and that could be for sharing or rental, and that could be for as short durations as 30 minutes, or it could be for longer durations. There is Amazon, which everybody is very familiar with, but Amazon is making it possible for them to deliver products closer to where you are. So even if you do not have an address, they would possibly have post boxes set up in different parts of the city, and you can pick them up. The most innovative one is coming from eBay, where you could pick a physical location and time where you want the product to be delivered. For example, you could say, I want this product to be delivered at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. at this intersection, and there would be an eBay truck that will come and deliver the product to you there. So this is again, based on what the customers want in terms of what products they want to buy and how they want those to be delivered. The spread of smart devices has increased the access to information, and that everybody is familiar with now. The customers take decisions based on their research and trust, not just on the company marketing material, but more on anonymous customers actually providing feedback, whether it's on YouTube or any of the other retail sites. the customers also use these mediums today to decide how to buy a product, what to buy, and when to buy, and what price to buy it for. Research also indicates that the teens of today, people who are between 10 to 17 or 18 years old, would be spending nearly a quarter of their life being online. And that is possibly one of the biggest, or maybe the biggest shift in terms of human behavior we've seen since the time that we've known, of somebody staying on a particular medium for a quarter of their life. So this is the first trend that I wanted to pick up. The next one is around the business drivers. And to illustrate this one, I'll pick two examples. One is about the automotive industry, where some of the business drivers that are changing the behavior of our companies which produce these products is based on emerging versus mature markets, and digital convergence and the use of digital in the human interaction with the machines, and mobility and sustainable transportation as well. Many of you would know that many of the car companies have hundreds of car models that they sell, but there is a huge degree of rationalization of the build configurations that's going on as we speak. Some time ago, a large auto manufacturer in the US did an analysis of their car wheel and realized that they have hundreds and hundreds of different car wheel models that they put on some of their cars. And anytime you carry an inventory of that size and all of the assembly that comes along with that inventory, it's a very expensive proposition. So people are trying to rationalize around how we do that. If you drive, let's say, a Skoda or a Volkswagen in India, you would have noticed that the dashboard is pretty much identical in both of them. And this is again, means of how do you rationalize and how do you take the products to these emerging markets where the pressure of price is different from what you possibly see in some other parts of the world. The digital convergence and the changing demographics and the impact of mobility. One of the various things that you would see in a car that doesn't seem to have changed over a period of time is the in-car dashboard. So when information features, etc., have been introduced into that, the way you interact with the dashboard hasn't really changed significantly. You still need to touch some buttons. Maybe the buttons have disappeared. You have a touch screen there, but the interaction is still the same. And there are new examples of how the interaction can be improved upon. And imagine a situation where such interaction may actually be not necessary to the same extent that it is today. Today there is technology that's already in the cars where if you're in a traffic jam, for example, your car, you can take your hands off the car and then the car will follow the car in front. So if it's a stop and go situation, you can just leave your hands. Google already has a car on the road for the last couple of years where it's a driverless car, and this technology has been accepted by the state of California as well. So imagine a situation where you do not need to drive a car, and then what kind of interface do you need to design for your cars inside? So these are big changes and changes that our clients in the automotive space are actually thinking about. Similarly, when you look at consumer goods, the globalization, the demand for innovation coming from the diversity of customers across various geographies is making the clients think differently in terms of how they innovate and be faster in terms of how they manufacture how to take the change from the customers into the manufacturing process and then get the product out in a short period of time. The devices we carry, obviously the places we visit, our online life, many such things are resulting in huge amounts of data that's getting generated. And when we've been speaking about big data, I think there is still some distance to cover in terms of how does the big data translate into good insights that can help us take the right decisions for delivering the right kinds of services and products that our customers expect in the marketplace today. So that's the second set of trend I want to speak about. The next one is the technology trends. And this picture is maybe slightly dated, about 8 months old or maybe 12 months old. But many of the names that you see here, bearing possibly the emails, are things that came in the last 15 to 20 years, maybe 15 years or less. The blogs, the YouTube, the Twitter, the iPhone, and when you look at what happens in all of these mediums in 60 seconds, it's really mind-boggling. The mobility is changing how information and ideas are consumed, changing the way people connect to technology, blurring the IT and the physical world. If you look at some of the data points that are shown here, in about 60 seconds, There are 13,000 plus iPhone applications downloaded every minute. There are 695,000 Facebook status updates, 100,000 tweets. In 2008, about 1% of the world's internet traffic was on mobile devices, but by end of 2012, it's 12%. And as all of us know, it is only growing rapidly and growing very, very rapidly. There was a news article today about a company that's going to offer free internet across the world by putting internet service in the space. So clearly, it's, there's a lot about getting customers on and then understanding what the customers do. That seems to be a significant value proposition that somebody can take to others who would need the customer information about. I think the WhatsApp deal that everybody is speaking about recently is a clear indication that you have customers, that you know the customer patterns and behaviors, and you could do a whole lot about with that information. But we are still, I would say, some distance away in understanding how that kind of information can be used. Okay. Moving on, the role of technology, I think with all of this changing, the role of technology from being an enabler to actually being a strategic medium for delivering services to our customers is also changing. This is obviously expected. Some of you may have heard of Industry 4.0. This is a term that first came out of Germany, but then subsequently similar principles have been accepted in many other countries. And what today we call as Internet of Things is, I think the genesis of that comes from the 4.0, Industry 4.0, which is basically characterized by highly intelligent physical systems that automatically perform end-to-end functions. So these systems combine things like communication, IT, data, physical elements like sensors, internet protocols for messaging, real-time processing, etc., to perform the functions that they're expected to perform. You might have also seen a video released by Google recently, which has 3D cameras on mobile devices, which captures nearly 1 million images or data points at least as the phone moves in your hand, and tries to create spatial structures which can transform the way humans interact with space. And the benefits and how it can actually be implemented is really limited only by imagination, I would say. The digital business is blurring the boundaries between digital assets and physical resources. So this is one example of that, between enterprises and their customers, between suppliers and other stakeholders. So the often used term of SMAC, or the social media, mobility, analytics, cloud, etc., forms a very potent technology ecosystem that is, of course, everybody trying to exploit it, make best use of it. But I think this is really the crux of what most of the companies and clients need to be thinking about. In simple terms, though, for people who often try to understand in a line what SMAC really means, social is really about how things are discovered. So it's a medium where you discover things. Cloud is about how these things are delivered to the people. Mobility is about how these things are actually consumed. You use in mobile devices. And analytics or big data, which is the C in the which is the A in the SMAC, is about how insights are actually created. So this is actually a cycle. You create content, you get them consumed, you analyze the data, you go modify that, and then use the social media and cloud for delivering and make those services or applications or functions visible to the customers. Moving on, again, continue the discussion on strategy, technology as a strategy versus being an enabler in the past. The broadband is another medium that's actually changing the way the customers are experiencing life. Okay? Nearly half of the television shipped with screens of 40 inches or more have integrated networking. So many of you who would have bought smart TVs at home realize that they are already connected to the internet. And therefore, video is becoming a growing mobile application. It's expected that by 2015, video would account for nearly 2/3 of the total global mobile data traffic. And within 2 years, it will even be newer. There will be newer behaviors related to how these devices converge together and communicate together. Accenture and a communications provider, as we speak today, are demonstrating a product in the Mobile World Conference in Barcelona, which brings together, it's a proof of concept using Google Glass and the Accenture video solution for interactive television viewing, storage, and control of the content on the television. So Google Glass, everybody realizes, has huge potential in terms of how we once again interact with the space around us. And this is a proof of concept that sort of includes advanced remote control or companion device, a second screen concept. So your Google Glass could be your second screen, and also a TV everywhere where you walk around and you have TV on your in front of your eyes when you need it and where you need it. So this is another trend that is clearly going to change the way we experience life. Now we move on to the last of the trends before we pick up the topic around business services. This is around changing expectations from IT, and I'll quickly go through this one. Many organizations have invested heavily in IT over the period of many years, and when a survey was done recently, it showed that nearly 60% of the people felt that they have not realized even half the benefits that were originally envisaged. So there is a gap between how companies start on the IT investments and then how they actually realize the benefits. The link or the gap between an IT transformation to business benefits realized is wider than anticipated at the start of the project. What the business is asking is, instead of being a supporting role for IT, it wants IT to actually deliver strategic value to the business. IT has given over a period of time automation and digitization, but has not really delivered the core business value and differentiation in terms of revenue, profit, market share, and client experience. Right? And with changing technology trends and disruptive innovation that's coming in, technology is being seen as a key driver of business value, and it's possible for technology to play that role. And I think that sort of leads us into, in the next few slides, into how technology can help deliver the business service or business value that the clients are looking for. Okay. I'll briefly touch upon the 4 waves. Some of you may be familiar with this one. This came from the Offshore Insights research document. The first wave is clearly about mainframes and machine languages. The second wave focuses on client-server data and data processing. The third wave, which lasted in the late 80s, 90s, and even in the first decade of this century, was more around ERP and everything else associated with that. And the fourth wave is about business processes being delivered on the cloud, pay-per-drink kind of models. And that's what we'll speak about in the next few slides. The goals of IT organizations also need to change from being technology-centric to being business-centric. Technology can help in managing business challenges, business models, margin pressures, and so on. You get higher business value from technology layers which are closer to the users. So as you can see, when you bring SMAC together, which is pretty much being very close to the users, social mobility are very, very close to the users. Of course, cloud is a means, and cloud is not something that users may actually understand, but would surely experience the benefit of that. This is a survey by McKinsey some time ago, or the 10 predictions. The one thing that I highlighted on this slide is the 4th point, which talks about offering anything as a service. Okay, so these are the 10 technology predictions by McKinsey, joining the social metrics, comparing, using big data and advanced analytics, and so on. But the big thing that customers and clients are looking for is being able to offer anything as a service. I want to give you an example here of a service that is not commonly believed to be possible. Many of us would have bought tires when they wear out on our cars, and we do that by actually paying upfront, and then it's a capital expenditure for us. Or similarly, if you have a fleet of cars like a Merocab, you invest to buy tires, and it's a one-time cost and a capital expenditure. But there is a model that's been deployed already in one of the European countries. I can't name the client here, where the tire is being sold as a service. So you pay for the tire as you consume the tire, and the consumption is not based on the mileage on the odometer, but it's actually based on the consumption of the rubber on the tire. So there's a transaction processing system in the background that actually manages that one. So this is a huge benefit for any company that has a fleet, because you do not really need to invest upfront, and you also only spend pay for the tire when you actually use the tire, which is possibly for generating some revenue as well. So that's one solution, one extreme example of a business service being delivered in an area which is traditionally considered to be a capital expenditure medium. So this section we speak about business solutions and services. Okay. And a simple definition of business service is starting from an issue and delivering an outcome. So IT transformation may be a good project, but then if the issue that business has is about let's say increasing X percentage, decreasing increment cost by 10%, or improving employee efficiency by X percentage, if it is delivered to achieve this outcome, then you're actually going from an issue to actually delivering an outcome. And this could be in the form of course, technology trying to help and achieve that outcome. There are also companies which are actually looking for not really putting significant investment upfront in terms of setting up a lot of infrastructure and applications and software, but instead are looking for just buying the service that would help them achieve the outcome that they are looking for. For example, if and maybe Udaya would also know, can speak a little about this one. If you want to ship a container or box from one part of the geography to the other part of the geography, you have a choice of sending it in a ship in many different routes, and you have a choice of sending it at different speeds depending on whether you want to take a container half full and still ship it, or whether you want to send it fully loaded. All of that could be driven through a software, and if you're a large shipping company, you could choose to actually install it on site and then run it. Or if you're a smaller cargo provider, then you could actually pay by service. So you could choose to pay every time you use that system, and every time you book a customer goods to be shipped from one place to another place, you could actually pay for just that one particular transaction. Now, to deliver these business outcomes, as I said, there are multiple levels of capabilities that you can bring in. The first is of course skills. You need that. You need to have the model to happen. Level above that, in terms when you have accelerated assets, so you possibly have a template that you can take to a client and then implement that faster. Time to market may be quick, but it is still a client-specific implementation or installation that we do. One level above that in terms of value is the software, where you have an application or a software that is able to deliver the kind of business function and process that you are looking for. And finally, the highest value in this chain is the business service, where the client would not host or own any portion of the software, anything related to the software. Instead, they just buy the service. I gave a couple of examples earlier. One is Michelin, one is the tire company. The second one is the freight thing. The third one example could be if you own, for example, a low-cost airline company, or if you want to start a low-cost airline company, you could choose to not create your own ticketing system. Instead, you buy a ticketing as a service from some provider who would then take care of building the software, maintaining the software, hosting the software, and all of the back-end business process that is necessary to actually run that process for you. And all you pay for is the transaction that that happens every time a customer would possibly buy a ticket, and you only pay for that one. So this is a similar explanation. When you deliver a business service, there are three things that are mandatory or essential to stay in the business service model. One of them is the value-led thing. So you need to have a clear definition of what the value is. You would say that my revenue has to increase by 15%, or procurement cost to come down by X percentage, and so on. So that's the value levers that should be there. There has to be a software or an asset layer where you implement software for efficiency. and for consistency in the way the process is executed. And then, of course, it is a process-led thing and not an IT technology-led thing. There could be other optional things that you add. For example, insight-driven data analytics that you gather from all of the user consumption of these services, and of course mobility and cloud as a means for deploying some of these services. But the three essential components of a business service, when you decide on what business service to shape, are the value, the software, and the process-led aspect of it. And when you bring all of these together, or when you have those three essential things with you, the four major portions of a business service are, as I said, you need to have the technology, you need to have the delivery model in terms of how you want to deliver the business service. It could be, for example, an on-premise installation, or it could be an installation that's on the cloud and it's a pay-per-use. It has to have an infrastructure to support that. It should be scalable. For example, if you're hosting a retail site on your system, you need to be aware that during the holiday season there could be a spike, and you're able to actually manage that portion of infrastructure. Similar spikes may be necessary even on the BPO side when the number of transactions and the volume of transactions increase during such peak periods. So when you have the BPO, the technology, the delivery model, and the infrastructure all together, then you can actually deliver a business service to our clients or to their customers, where there is really no upfront capital cost that the client need to incur, at least not in any significant way. This is an illustration of a business service in human capital management. There are a few things listed here in red. The service-based model is one thing where you pay per hire or per hour or per user license and so on. There could be a model where you're paid for based on the value you deliver. If you save so much, so many $1 million in any of those targets the company has, and you get paid a portion of that. It is obviously powered by an asset, so you have a software or an asset that is actually delivering this service. And then there's analytics around it, and of course the cloud as a means for delivering the service, especially if it is not on-premise for the client. With that, I want to hand over to Udaya to speak on the remaining sections.
Thanks, Raghu. Good afternoon, everyone. This slide talks about the assets or the products that we have today from Accenture, which actually empowers us to go and give business value and solutions to the customers. So we do have a snapshot of financial services products, which actually range from claims insurance, in general insurance, life insurance, and then we do also have in the business of mortgage lending and buying. That's mortgage cadence set of products. So these set of products are being deployed across various sizes of customers, from large customer portfolio to even a small customer. So for a small customer, as Raghu mentioned earlier, we also go with a cloud-based solution, and that happens across the industries. In consumer and goods and travel industries, we do have products which help people to actually do everything in between a CRM and an ERP. For example, title logistics, we have quote to cash, where we take in everything from booking of capacity for cargo shipment for ocean liners or for air carriers, all the way to actually getting this shipped and delivered to the customers. And then only the ERP is used as the backbone to do the billing and then do the final maintenance of the customer relationships there. So CRM and ERP, between CRM and ERP, everything else is done in this software. Consumer goods, for example, help our customers to understand how their books, how the shelves are used, are they used properly, and then what is the ratio between the usage versus churn and so on, or even the revenue that they earn. So, and it is being used by actually the retailers, the store keepers, and even the brand managers to actually see if the products on the shelf are actually having a visibility or the right mix. So what will actually make the products be bought by the end customers. We also have some products on health services and human services, and cross-industry products on, which will actually take care of human capital management and so on. For example, Accenture Video Solution is one thing that is used by a lot of broadcasters. So they actually manage their videos, clips to large running videos. They can index it, they can play it time and again. They can actually manage the inventory of all the videos and then deliver it across various types of media, not only television media but also even handheld devices and so on. So there is a lot of ways of customizing the videos to be delivered for multiple different devices. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what are the lessons here, right? So how is it different from a typical application development that you see in normal projects, application level projects, so where we get hired by a customer to actually build an application for them so that they can actually use it 2 years down the line. So what happens in a product organization? So there are a lot of other additional technology challenges that we need to take care of. For example, customizations. We build a product and the product actually will not be suiting the customer 100%. It will probably suit them 80% or 90%, and the rest of the 10% has to be modified. And then this leads to modifications for each and every customer, right? So you cannot actually take it or leave it mode. You cannot run a product in that kind of a mode. So you'll actually end up customizing the product for 100 different customers in 100 different ways. And that leads to a lot of versions, and that leads to also a lot of different different understanding of what is specific to each customer. That's one challenge. Second challenge is size of the customer. So how is the size of the customer going to impact my product? For example, if I have a routing logic that needs to be routing a product within 100 locations, then I can actually run this in 1 second or 2 seconds, for example. But if the same thing, if I have to do it across, say, 10,000 locations or 100,000 locations, then your product will not work in 1 or 2 seconds. So if it actually taking 20 seconds or 30 seconds, the product is useless. So as the volume of, as the size of the customer increases from small to large, the master data may increase, and because of which the various phase of using the product also will have a problem. So we need to take care of that when you actually design a product. The master data volume I just spoke about, so where we need to have different scenarios for different master data, and then see if the product works well for each of these scenarios. Multiple devices. Some of your customers want your apps to run on their iPads. Some of your customers would want your apps to run on the old version of Internet Explorer IE6 or IE7, and some of the people would want to actually have a traditional desktops where it should work. So we should actually certify your product to work on each of these devices for each of these versions and processes that they run on, and that actually adds to the challenge. Different system software components. So some customers would have in their own organizations a set of IT roadmaps, for example, or IT standards. One customer will say WebLogic 6 is my standard today, or WebLogic 12 is my standard today. The other customer will say no, it's WebSphere. Somebody will say Oracle, somebody will say DB2, and so on. So we need to be able to certify it across different system components. And that leads to a plethora of certifications. So for this version, for this particular combination, for this device, for this browser, I need to do this kind of testing and so on and so forth. So a plethora of certifications has to be challenged. So I cannot easily make a release. So how do I make a release that actually works for all the customers, for all the devices, for all the various base softwares? So can I actually plan my release in such a way that I do a major release and I do a minor release, and then I minor release, so this is what is coming in the certification. Scalability spectrum. So scalability is very, very critical. So I should be able to run my application for, say, power users, or set of 10 power users, to actually 100,000 actual users who are using the system day in and day out 24/7. So I should be able to make it run from one server to, say, 100 servers simultaneously with or without backups in primary mode or in a secondary mode or whatever it is. So scalability spectrum is something that we need to test on the product. So this actually comes even in applications, but as a product you need to actually see that it has various ends to the spectrum, right? So you can actually scale for one user to actually 100,000 users. And this is all not defined, right? We don't have the requirements upfront for one typical customer saying that I can go and build this for this particular scalability size. Flexibility to extend. So this is where some customers say, yeah, you have this inventory control module, or you have this kind of a video solution, but yeah, I want to extend this to actually take this extra set of different kind of master data or metadata tags and so on. So can I do it? Can I get APIs? Can I get a workflow that I can actually change? Can I get something, a different screen? Can I have extra fields? These kind of questions keep coming all in while. So flexible to easily extend, not only by your own team, but also by your partner ecosystem. So that is something that normally we always have a demand coming from our customers and our partners. Deployment configs, again, as I said earlier, it can be on-premise, or it can be on a cloud, or it can be a managed instance on a cloud, or it can be a software as a service on a cloud. So there are multiple deployment configurations that each customer would demand, so based on which we should be able to flexibly deploy this particular solution on the process. Security integrations, LDAP versus SSO versus own provisioned security. So all this extra stuff adds to the challenge of making your product work on different scenarios. Integration middleware spectrum. So some people will say, no, I don't have ESB skills, so I don't want any ESB in my premise. Somebody will say, no, yeah, I want it to make it to work for, it needs to talk to 4 other systems in place. So this is where SFDC as Salesforce.com actually has given APIs, and using these APIs you can actually integrate to every single system that you have in your premise, or you can actually make it integrate on another cloud system that you have. So you should be able to integrate with simple middleware like a string integration technology or Apache Camel, or it can be even large-scale ESBs like TIBCO or MQ or IBM middleware, or whatever we have there by the customers. Orchestration is what is demanded by a lot of our customers. So if you're buying a product, it should not be a standalone product, right? It should be able to plug and play and work with all 100 systems that I have in place. So the orchestration between this system versus other systems, not only in terms of transactions but also in terms of master data, is what is heavily demanded by a lot of our customers. So these are all the set of challenges that actually make your product, make your engineering skills sharpened. You need to have higher thinking capability, research capability to actually see, okay, yeah, I'm able to meet my product to all these demands, and that's where the challenge comes in. Going to the next slide. And on the other spectrum, we have the new technology strengths like Uto spoke about earlier, right? So we have analytics. So these are all functionally driven and use case driven or need driven. So is there a need for me if I have 100, 200 use cases? So out of these 200 use cases, which use cases would actually help me have analytics embedded and say, yeah, so because of this analytics, I can have an extra sale or extra upsell cross-sell opportunity, or I can actually get an insight into my cost and then cut down this cost. I can club this cost together and so on. So that is something that that will help, right? So, and similarly, we have say mobile. So not all use cases would be required to be used by your end users. So when you say it will not be B2C, it may be some user employees within the organization. So some of the screens may be good for a desktop because they are heavily used tables, or there are heavily used macros that run there. But some of the things, yeah, if you are talking about making a booking done for booking a capacity or trying to get a video delivered on your mobile, so that's something that you need to have a mobile use case on. So if the product needs that this kind of UI should be delivered on the mobile, your product should be able to deliver them on mobile in a very, very fast and easy manner, right? So that's one other thing that we need to keep in mind. Web 2.0, so there are a lot of, so no longer we need to rely on this old client server mode where you have a thick client, swing-based UI or thick form controls. So all this is available even on a browser today. So how do I get the best user experience embedded into my product and then the solution and make it easy for the end users to understand without actually having them go through a training? That is a challenge, and that is something that we, as we get more and more technologies and more open source software to commercial software available. For example, you can have AngularJS or Accenture or even other JavaScript libraries, or you can have something as simple as a jQuery that you can make use of to actually make your HTMLs on web pages respond in an elegant manner to the user. Social. So everybody talks about social being away from business. So yeah, I can use Facebook, I can use LinkedIn, or I can use Twitter or whatever to actually build brand awareness or probably help do promotions. but actually social is now getting embedded inside the business transactions. So I don't need to be actually going through these outside websites to actually see what's happening. But if I'm the user of a particular product, I can say I'm coming there for booking, but I want to ensure that till my product is delivered or till my product is delivered to me if I'm booking a car. So I want to understand if I'm making 10 phone calls or making 5 customer interactions, I'm visiting a dealer, I'm taking a test drive, I'm actually doing something else, whatever interactions I'm doing, all this can be in a continuum for me. So that's itself is a social. So the social interactions is something that helps me and helps me have the continuum, and then have my representative on the other side also see how many times I come to the company and what for, right? And so that helps the companies also deliver higher value to the end user. Big data, again, there is a lot of new trend on big data, and probably you can say hype, or probably there's a lot of messages that go around big data, but the big data use case have to be there. So do I generate the volume in a very high velocity manner? So for example, that do I have for my product, do I have hundreds of thousands of transactions being made every second or every hour or whatever, and then do I discard it or do I keep it? And if I discard it, okay, what good use is this information for me, and how do I use this information to actually make some sense out of it and then use it for business? That's where big data comes in, right? So if there are a lot of high velocity data and high volume data that the product or the business generates, and then from there getting insights and getting value and then making some money out of it, or ensuring that quality or money or customer being happy about it is something that's use case driven. So if you have some products where these use cases are there, we should be using big data to actually get the output that we need. So we do a fitment here and see, yeah, for this product we need a big data, so we can go and use the big data. If there's no use case data, yeah, we may not use it. So the scale I'm talking about here is, so we have the fitment and need here, and then we have products on one side where they use this particular feature very low, and then there are some products which use this feature on a very high scale manner. So for each product, we should be able to determine how good or how bad it is. So that's where this slide talks about. Next. Go to the next slide. The critical success factors. Okay. So we have this lot of engineering challenges, and so we need very high qualified technical experts on all these technology trends, and also at the same time we need the domain knowledge to ensure that we are capturing the use cases that the customer wants, and also be able to customize it the way each particular customer wants a particular product. So it's a mix of having talent not only in terms of technical experts but also industry experts, and of course we get the knowledge from these experts and then make use of this knowledge by transferring it, this knowledge, having a knowledge sharing sessions in the schools, the center of excellences, where there is there are tech arc school or the functional training schools or product training schools, and the tools that we develop, right? So this center of excellences actually take this knowledge and build this over a period of time into various assets and various enablers. And then from using these enablers and then using this knowledge sharing and training sessions, and then making them equipped and be ready for meeting up the challenges. So once they are ready, we actually deploy them on the engineering teams directly, or even for customizations of a particular product on client implementations, or even actually defining what the product should be in the next version, right? So that's where we say, yeah, this is product management. So we define the product roadmap and the functional roadmap for each of these particular products that we have. And then we also do a sales and solutioning, so where we actually go to the market, understand what the market wants, and then come back to the product management and say, yeah, well, we should have this earlier, we should have this later. So this cycle keeps on. So it's basically understanding the needs, sharing the knowledge, developing the knowledge, doing the research, and then executing on the research. And this is one of the key reasons why we should, one of the critical success factors why we should why you should execute well, right? So that's what I have. So That's it from my side. So back to Raghu for a few summarization.
Thanks, Uday. And we have 5 minutes more than what we had planned for the presentation. We wanted to leave sufficient time for questions. We do have a few questions here, and without wasting much time, I want to go into those questions. There are some that I will pass on to Udaya and some that I may be able to take. And any question that we are not able to answer in the time that we have, we'll make sure that we will respond to that offline. There's one question here that talks about, it says, I would like to know what will be the impact of IT services in retail industry along with IT products sale. If the question is around, what's the how is IT going to help in the retail industry? I think retail and consumer goods are two of the areas where the impact of the SMAC technologies is possibly most visible and happening at the most at the highest velocity as well. All the way from managing your supply chain of the products that you want to either sell through an online store or through a brick and mortar store, to understanding customer patterns, understanding how you need to lay the product out both on your website as well as in store. There are a huge number of applications and softwares that are coming up to help that happen. For example, there is a software within Accenture software where you could, storekeeper can actually go into the aisles, take a picture of an aisle and upload it to the software. The software would process that image, understand what products are actually on the shelf, and then come back with feedback or information around how the product should be actually laid out on the shelf so that it can return the highest value for the store. Similarly, when you look at online stores like Amazon and eBay, the extent of analytics that goes around based on your browsing pattern itself in terms of proposing what products would be useful for you or may be of interest to you is changing. The way the supply chain, all the way deciding where you need to store your products, when you need to store your products, and how many you need to store in what parts of the country, and how do you deliver them at the shortest time. I think for all of these, there's a huge impact of these technologies in IT. And clearly, the in-store experience is something that is also changing in terms of how technology is deployed. Whether you go to an Apple store, or whether where can you, for example, fill your cart and walk through two sensors, and then you get a bill printed on the other side because there is enough number of intelligence built into the cartons that are actually on your cart. So I think these are two industries that will actually see a very rapid use of these new technologies. Let me pass on the next question to Udaya. Udaya, there's a question that's asking about elaboration on orchestration.
Yeah, so orchestration is something that, for example, if you're just talking about one product that we're installing, so they'll have the upstream systems and the downstream systems that have to pass on messages and pass on various data from to this application, right, to this particular product. So that's where people want service enablement to be done, and that's a larger part of the process. There are some automated steps, and these automated steps go through a process called orchestration. And this is where you have a business process management coming in picture, and then saying that, yeah, so for this particular process, I'll have two upstream systems send these messages to the next system, and the next system actually does this kind of work, and then there may be a manual intervention in between, and then it goes back to the next few systems there. So this kind of a flow is actually defined using a business process management system, and then this orchestration happens across the system using this SOA-enabled services. Did I answer the question?
Thanks, Udaya. The next question is, you mentioned about Accenture software. How do you sell this to the prospective clients? Is it a SaaS model? How about maintenance and support? Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't get that. How do you sell Accenture software? Do you sell it in a SaaS mode, or how do you do maintenance? Okay, yeah. So Accenture, we have both. That's the deployment configuration modes, right? So some of our large customers would want to have it on-premise, and some of the customers, smaller customers, would want to have pay by use. So we have both of options available for most of our products. So it's pay by use as well as license-based selling.
Thanks, Udaya. There's a question on what are the technology stack Accenture has used for developing its software products?
Predominantly Java, and we do also have Microsoft-based technologies. So some of our products are built on Microsoft technologies, and the rest of all are built on Java-based technologies.
I also want to add one more point. As a firm, though, Accenture has not really tried to be tied into any specific technology or any specific infrastructure or hardware as well. And on the hardware side, I want to give an example to illustrate the neutrality that the firm has always maintained. If you travel on a metro, more likely you would either buy one of those paper tickets, which are the magnetic strip that you either flash or put it through a slot, or you buy a token, or you buy a magnetic card that you would maybe drop into the slot when you're departing from the station. For Accenture, the software that actually manages this whole ticketing system, and we have now built a system which is going to be implemented in Washington Metro, and it's in the newspapers as well, where we are doing an open payment system where you don't need to be tied into any hardware. So the swipe machines, etc., could be any company, and you also don't need to be tied into any provider who would give you that magnetic paper ticket or any of those. You could use your NFC-enabled phone if it's already linked to your credit card or some other means of financial transaction, or you could use a credit card. You just tap the card and then you go on that, and the system will take care of processing the price of the ticket based on where you got in, where you got out, and what kind of promotions, etc., are in place at the time. There is another one on reducing costs and delivering value. How do you balance this in service or product delivery? I know this is a good question, and I would say that there is I mean, it has to be the right balance, but I look at it as in two words, I think, which are maybe synonymous to what you would ask here. One is, how do you stay competitive, and how do you differentiate yourself? I think both of them are absolutely necessary to be a leader in the market. You have to be competitive in building what you're building at the best possible price, and at the same time be differentiating, because customers today look for value, and sometimes the value is not easily quantifiable. So it is important that the value aspect is not lost when you're looking at cost as well. But being competitive and being cost sensitive is equally necessary as well. Every day, lots of apps are. Next question. Sorry, I forgot to mention the names earlier. This is from Praveen Kumar Datta. He asked a question. It says, every day, lots of apps are published into the App Store. What is the scope of iOS and Android apps market in the upcoming days? What can be the role of mobile developer in this challenging environment? The use of iOS and Android. I know that the marketplace has become a common parlance in our daily usage, but the use of these two operating systems is going to be far more pervasive than the apps that we actually download on our mobile devices, either to play games or get directions or make a reservation at a hotel. These are going to drive many of the systems that we are going to be living with in our houses and in our offices, whether it is the systems that open the doors, or whether they are TVs, or whether they are cars. Today, many of the car manufacturers are actually working on their in-car infotainment systems being driven either by Android or by iOS. I think it's mostly been Android so far in terms of the systems that are not proprietary. And some of you may have read in the newspapers about Apple talking to Tesla, the largest electrical car manufacturer in the world, fashion electrical car manufacturer. So it goes beyond this, and for the mobile developer, I think they need to look at not just how do you use it on your handheld devices, but also expand their thinking around what other kinds of applications would be necessary in these devices, whether it is a car, whether it's a home security system, your TV, or it could be one of those health devices that you put on your wrist. So again, I think the boundaries are limited by the imagination that we have right now. The next question. Okay, so let's continue. There are quite a few questions. I don't know whether I'll be able to cover all of them, but as I said, if I can't cover, I'll pick them up offline. There is a question that says, I have heard of Accenture Technology Vision. What is it about? Like all large, well-known entities in the world, like Gartner and so on, which publish things annually or quarterly, Accenture publishes a study document called Accenture Technology Vision, which basically looks at the trends. It's based on discussions with the CIOs and the CEOs and so on, plus watching market trends, talking to researchers, universities and so on, and come up with what are the technology trends that we see in the marketplace and how is it going to shape the way customers and clients need to look at adopting and delivering those services that customers look for. This is an annual event, and it's a neutral event. It's not intended to be an Accenture marketing thing, but it's more of a document that is used to help shape decisions that some of the CIOs need to be taken. So can we say that the next era will be of mobile devices boom, as if we talk, Sony and Samsung discontinued laptops? I think so. The question is, even as we talk, Sony and Samsung have discontinued the laptops. So is it going to be the era of mobile devices? This is a question from Ramji Mishra. I think many of these things will coexist. There will be a place for laptops and computers as well. At least for many years, when as long as IT services are continued to be delivered. But mobile devices and in other forms will obviously get into the marketplace as well. When iPad first came out into the market, I think nobody really visualized or envisaged as to the situations where that could be used. And today we see that it is absolutely pervasive across so many domains and users. So I think devices in mobile devices in many other form factors and many other shapes would continue and grow in very, very large shapes and quantities and uses. But I do feel that laptops will continue to have their place. Maybe in terms of percentage of the market, it may be smaller than the mobile market. We are at the top of the hour. Before I hand over to Aradhana, I have one comment to make. So this is a session that's conducted by Accenture Software, and we just wanted to look out for a quiz that we are conducting next month, on the same forum, the TechGig forum. This is going to be primarily based on Java and related to product engineering.
Thank you, Raghu. Thank you, Udaya. I'm really thankful to both our guest speakers for conducting this insightful presentation. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Raghu and Udaya, for all your time.
Thank you, Aradhana.
Have a great evening ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.